Dear students and friends, today we propose to discuss a very important issue in Indian politics, which has also gained a lot of prominence and attention in, I must say, in South Asian society and politics as well. What type of role women are expected to play in public life, in politics? Because it is only after their adequate representation is ensured in politics, in parliamentary institutions, in political parties, that we can widen the public space for them. Now, I am discussing this very important issue at a time when, for very obvious reasons, the women's issues have come to the forefront once again in India. And our immediate, I may say, provocation, in fact, in one way or the other, is the very shocking incident that took place in Delhi, in which we saw a paramedical student gang raped and ultimately she succumbed. Earlier to that, in September last year, 2012, in a very important landmark judgment, a female judge, Jyotsna Yognik, special judge, in a case pertaining to Gujarat, and that too in Narodia Patia, very, very important case in the sense in which almost 36 women were gang raped and 35 innocent children were killed. The lady judge sentenced the MLA of Narodia, Maya Kudnani, for 28 years imprisonment. These two incidents, very shocking incidents, provide us a context to have a look at the entire issue of women's role and participation as far as politics in India is concerned. We do understand that since 1990s, women have made a sort of a comeback as far as our social, cultural and economic life is concerned. And many things have gone into it, that why and how women visibility is now fairly seen in all walks of life. The idea that we have been now celebrating is women empowerment, and in fact different organizations at the national level, at a regional level, at international level have been through definite policies encouraging what's called as and enhancing this entire understanding of women's empowerment or women's participation. There are many international, national NGOs which have a lot of funding, a lot of money is being spent on women-related issues, on projects which deal with women's problems of the woman. And we also find that in India, over a period of time, a very heated discussion going on in extending the reservation to women, not only in the upper legislatures, in the parliament and state legislatures, but it has already been done that this reservation has been extended to them at the third tier, which is the local bodies, the panchayats and the municipalities. Now the question is that, as I was saying, that the very idea of women visibility and women empowerment and women participation is something, an idea which is now nationally, regionally and globally being celebrated, very much liked, and it has in fact been mainstreamed in the sense whether these are our policy makings of political parties, of governments, of non-governmental organizations, of civil society organizations. And this entire understanding in fact has given rise to the international organization like United Nations declaring the 1975 as the year of women, and in fact it was followed by International Women's Decade, and as a logical fallout of that we had almost 4 very important international meetings, conferences, world conferences on women and women-related issues. One was held in Mexico, the second one at Copenhagen, then Nairobi, and in 1995 we had the International Conference in Beijing of Women. Now, why actually we discuss this important issue as far as India is concerned is that we consider women being half of the population of the country, that you cannot deepen the very idea of democracy in India. You cannot make it inclusive and you cannot make it participatory unless and until women are given adequate and commensurate representation and participation as far as our political processes, our political institutions, and our government bodies are concerned. Now, this entire issue has somehow, in fact, came under a lot of cloud, that why forcefully and with speed we are not able to extend the reservation, 33% reservation to women in parliament and state legislatures is because in a context in which we discuss the India and Indian politics, there are so many issues which have in fact been raised by political parties, and I may say even more particularly by vernacular politicians and those parties which in fact have the distinction of representing the marginalized sections of the society, that they have a fear that in case we give without any serious thought 33% reservation to women in India, this may ultimately go to the benefit of the creamy layer, of the upper layer of the Indian society, the affluent women of different sections of the society, whereas the marginalized sections or marginalized women may not in fact benefit out of that. But in any case, if you just have a look at what's called as the political space that women have in India, or in fact by extension in the South Asian region, which is now emerging as a standard reference point for us, those who deal with political and other issues in this region, that women in fact have minuscule representation as at present in our very important premier law-making bodies, legislatures. So, in this context, one or two questions will definitely emerge and which we need to answer. One, that how is it and why is it that for so long, not only in one part of the world, but even in those cultures and those countries which somehow have the illusion of representing the civilized part of the world, even there also women and women related issues have remained quite neglected. One. Number two, that Indian women have also in fact suffered this neglect and marginalization. And how is it that with the enactment of a new Republican Constitution in India, gradually and incrementally we are now in a position that women and women related issues are now gaining a lot of importance, a lot of attention, not only through the channels of the media, academia, but this entire issue has now become a issue of mainstream politics, mainstream public life as far as India is concerned. Now, just in fact, it so happened not only in one culture, particular culture, one particular part of the world, but as I said earlier, even in countries which otherwise we have followed while drafting our constitutions after decolonization, after Second World War, in Asia, Africa and Latin America. We followed Great Britain, we followed other developed countries of the world, but if you just have a look at those countries also do not have any distinguished record of as far as women related or what's called as women participation or women inclusion in politics and political process is concerned. It so happened that even in United States of America, which in fact remained a premier power in 20th century and still in fact in the 21st century continues to in fact dominate world in several respects. Even in that country, women had to undergo through a very challenging process of in fact challenging the what is called as a culture which discriminated against the woman. Same is true of England, and I must say that J.S. Mill, the renowned political thinker, in his book Women and Politics, noted that marriage is the only bondage known to our laws, an English philosopher saying it, that there remain no legal slaves except the mistress of every house, unquote. Now, it's not only true of, as I said, the advanced countries of the world, where from we borrowed models of constitution making and other political practices. Even in our own subcontinent, our South Asian subcontinent, or to be in fact more precise, in the entire South Asian region, we have had very dismal record of what's called as the women and their participation and representation in elected chambers, elected institutions is concerned. And in that I may say that to what extent we actually hold the cultures of these countries primarily responsible for that, or we somehow in fact find that the levels of development of a particular country will determine as to how the marginalities and marginalized sections of society will ultimately, gradually, incrementally find a place in public life, in politics. These are very important issues that we may have to discuss at some point of time. But coming to India and South Asian region, you will find that definitely there are contradictions. It provides a very paradoxical situation. We have found very powerful women leaders. Madam Indira Gandhi for a long time presided over the destiny of the Indian nation, with the fact that she had, of course, an illustrious family background. In our neighboring country, Pakistan, we had twice Benazir Bhutto, the Prime Minister of that country. In Sri Lanka, Shrima Bandra Naiki, and in again a very important country in our region, Bangladesh, Sheikh Hasina Wajid, Begum Khalida Zia, do provide us a certain context that at somewhere at the top level, we have a very distinguished record of women participation and women leaders. But if you look at the bottom, at the periphery, it is quite disappointing that it does not match with as far as the top level representation of women at the top level is concerned, is not commensurate with the what we call as the bottom units of our societies, of our polities in different parts of South Asia. Now, all this is in fact in for a greater change. There are of course challenges, I do understand, a force of obscurantism, feudalism, extremism, but equally very strong forces of emancipation, of a large scale mobilization, wherein the rights, privileges and the share in the power of neglected sections of the society are being taken at all levels in not only India but in the entire South Asian region. Now, coming close to Indian situation, I think in the India's freedom movement before 1947, women played a very important role. And if we also look at the regional movements, which were of course part of the national movement, and in our own state of Jammu and Kashmir state in 1944, it was a regional political party which was at the forefront of anti-colonial, anti-feudal movement, which came out with a very important emancipatory, forward-looking document called Naya Kashmir in 1944. And the political leadership at that point of time had the vision of providing tremendous space to women in this part of the world. I have seen commentaries of very influential people on that document describing the Naya Kashmir document of 1944 in terms of its potential and emancipatory potential as miles ahead of the Karachi resolution of Indian National Congress on Fundamental Rights. So the question is that in India's freedom movement, women remained a very important factor and they played a very important role. But generally, if we just look into very intensely, very closely, probably families which had a certain illustrious family background, or by mere sheer of luck that they came on to become part of the freedom movement of the national movement. But more than that, if you just look at the bottom units at the level of the villages, at the level of jatis, at the level of communities in India and in the extended region of South Asia, the situation is quite disappointing. But in any way, what is important is that within India, we had political leaders, and more particularly the father of the nation, Mahatma Gandhi, who are very clear on this point, as is in fact very much reflected in the text of the Indian Constitution at several places, that without any discrimination on anything on basis of sex, all people in India, all persons have opportunities to grow wherever the questions of social, economic and political justice are concerned and where the questions of dignity are concerned. Mahatma Gandhi, in fact, one point of time he said that I am not going to be part of that legislature where women are not adequately represented. In fact, he declared his unconcealed pride in Indian womanhood, and he said that whenever the history of India, particularly after India got independence, when it will be written, I think it will be written with due acknowledgement of the sacrifices and the role that the women have played in India's freedom movement. When Gandhi was asked about, and a very interesting question, that who will be and who should be the president of the Indian Republic after India became a republic. Will it be some Englishman? And if it is not an Englishman, then should it not be Jawaharlal Nehru? Because Nehru is a highly educated man, can speak English, French, and has a huge experience of visiting different foreign countries. Answering this question, Mahatma Gandhi said that if I have my way, the President of the Indian Republic will be a chaste and brave Dalit girl. If an English girl of 17 could become the British Queen and later even the Empress of India, there is no reason why a Dalit girl of robust love of her people and integrity of character should not become the first President of the Indian Republic. It is not necessary, Gandhi said, that a president should be a highly educated person. If I can find that girl, such a girl, she will be our president. We shall all salute her. She will have a cabinet of ministers. She will act on their advice. And if such a girl of my dreams will become the president of India, I shall make Jawaharlal Nehru, Sardar Patel, and Rajendra Babu and her ministers her servants, unquote. That I think was largely the vision of post-independence political leadership, and that vision was of course shaped, it evolved during the anti-colonial movement, and it had its impact in other parts of South Asia as well. That the woman and her role is very important in shaping the public life, in shaping politics, and in also overall national development is concerned. What is very important is that over a period of time, and over decades I must say, since India had the traumatic experience of emergency in 1975, since then, as at the level of at international level, women and women-related issues were gaining prominence. Here in India also, I think, women started gendering the politics and public life. And women started, in fact, in a big way, in the legislature and outside the legislature, putting their footprints on different policy documents, on different policies, and which was in fact found, and which in fact we tried to realize it whenever and wherever different laws were being made at different levels, at the regional level, in the state legislatures, or even in the Parliament of India. And in 1975, after 1975, we saw very important steps were taken, like the Child Marriages Restraints Amendment Act, which has a very important gender dimension. Amendment to Dowry Prohibition Act in 1971. Till then, the dowry deaths were generally considered as suicides, not murders. It was because of this act and a lot of activism that was shown by some women that the impact was felt even in the law-making process. Not only that, over a period of time, we have also seen that the family, which of course in our South Asian context is a very sacred space and very important institution in upholding some of our very important values, which we cherish even today. That family, once it was realized that the private sphere of the family can be also and is the site of oppression that state tried to invade through its laws and through several other instrumentalities, that private space of the family as well. But once it was realized that this private space can be wrongly, in fact, mobilized or used against a woman and women's rights and women's placement in the family or in the society. At this point of time, when we in fact discuss the women, their role in politics, political participation, and how crucial and important their role is in making democracy more participatory, more inclusive, not only in India but in the larger region of South Asia, we have to take into account that we have a very muddy road to travel, very difficult path to travel. And for that, what's very important is that certain very important movements need to be launched, not at the level of the what's called as society in general. I may say the civil society, by women's organizations particularly, that 2-3 things are very important in our region. One is that there are rough estimates that it will still take us 5 centuries to get women at par with men as far as empowerment in real sense is concerned, as far as their participation in real sense is concerned. And for that, as many people have been over a period of time building up a case that this ideology of male domination, patriarchy, somehow it needs to be seriously contested, it needs to be challenged. And wherever we find this entire issue of how this entire issue of patriarchy or male domination comes into it, one. Number two, how actually we enable women to gain access to and control over resources. And these resources can be material, human, and intellectual. A third, that there are institutions, and these institutions are playing very important role, but from the point of view of women and women-related issues, there is a need for transforming these institutions of family, education, what's called as media, and certain structures like legal, political, economic, social, and these structures generally which enhance or which lead to this male hegemony. And these structures are to be transformed, these structures are to be contested, and these can be contested by large-scale mobilization by civil society organizations, by women's organizations, by people in general, even by religious leaders also, so that the Beijing World Conference on Women, which declared women's rights as human rights, that we are ultimately in a position to translate that dream into reality. Just to have a look at the South Asian region, it may be a bit surprising for some people that in our immediate neighborhood, Pakistan has a very distinguished record of as far as women participation in politics is concerned. Because statistically, Pakistan is only country in the South Asian region where women have 21.3% reservation in the National Assembly of Pakistan. India, largest democracy of the world, has just 8.3% representation as far as women are concerned. Bangladesh has 15%. Nepal has granted 33% reservation in its interim constitution of 2008, but Nepal is in for change because we still don't have a constitution, a consensual constitution in that country. But this is broadly the position that we find in the South Asian region, that sometimes we get the impression about certain countries that women's representation may be a very distant idea in those countries, which necessarily is not the reality. While as countries which have robust democratic institutions can have very poor record as far as women participation and representation in parliament, in legislatures, in politics, in political process is concerned. Towards the end, I would like to suggest and say that that it is a very important issue, and I don't think India or even the larger region of South Asia can afford to in fact ignore or sleep over this very important issue of which concerns 50% of our population at a time when this region has seen also greater degree of violence, greater degree of marginalization because of new economic policy, greater degree of what you call as intolerance because of several other reasons. We need to in fact rise to the occasion and see that how women are essentially brought at the forefront in as far as different opportunities, economic, social, political, and in fact extending these opportunities to them are concerned. Thank you.